Hello, Internet! We are live at 9 o'clock for another Dr. Seuss book. All through the month of July, Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock every night, we're doing another Dr. Seuss. Tonight is If I Ran the Zoo. So, it's a bit of a big one. Let's begin. It's a pretty good zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, and the fellow who runs it seems proud of it, too. See, it's a zoo, and there's a kid and a guy who runs the zoo in a red hat. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes. That's just what I'd do. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have up here now are not quite good enough. You see things like these in just any old zoo. They're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So they got lions and tigers in the zoo. And oh, now the boy's wearing the red hat because he's in charge of the zoo now. So I'd open each cage. I'd unlock every pen, let the animals go and start over again. Somehow or other, I think I could find some beasts of a much more unusual kind. See, he's let everybody out of the zoo. This could be a tragedy. He's allowed lions and tigers into the city. Lock your doors, people. A 4-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet at least. 5 legs on the left and 5 more on the right. Then people will stare and they'll say, "What a sight! This zookeeper, newkeeper Gerald's quite keen. That's the gol-darndest lion I ever did see." Some very impressed people in top hats looking at the 10-footed lion. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of hen, who roosts in another hen's topknot, and then another one roosts in the topknot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth and upward and onward. Gee whiz! I like that he keeps saying they're hens, and then he's referring to them as his topknot, because aren't hens female? I think because they lay eggs, they're the females.
Yeah, the roosters.
So I'm rather confused as to how he's going to do this. But it's his zoo. He knows what he's doing here, I'm sure. But that's just a start. I'll do better than that. They'll see me next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming into my zoo with an elephant cat. They'll be so surprised they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask, when they see my strange animals come, "Where do you suppose he get things like that from? His animals all have such very odd faces. I bet he must hunt them in rather odd places." See, it's an elephant cat, which is a cat that looks the size of an elephant and has an elephant's trunk. I wonder if I'd be allergic to that. "And that's what I'll do," said young Gerald McGrew. "If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go places no others can get to. You have to get cold and you have to get wet, too. Up past the North Pole where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go and I'll hunt in my Skiggle-mobile and bring back a family of what do you know? And that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow." So this is apparently a family of what do you know? They look a bit like seals. They've all got gigantic tusks. "I'll hunt in the mountains of Zomba-Matant, with helpers who wear all their eyes at a slant. Ooh. And capture a fine fluffy bird called the bustard, who only eats custard with sauce made of mustard, and also a very fine beast called the flustered, who only eats mustard with sauce made of custard." I wonder if this is one of the books that the publisher for Dr. Seuss stopped printing because of the slanty-eyed people that said, "Ooh," I'm like, you can't say that. "I'll catch 'em in caves and I'll catch 'em in brooks. I'll catch 'em in crannies, I'll catch 'em in nooks that you don't read about in geography books. I'll catch 'em in countries that no one can spell, like the country of Matafapatafapel. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beasts that you never saw ever." So I guess this is the country that no one can spell, and it does appear to have some strange beasts. He's on a boat. "I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jotes, whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel-like coats. and sit down like dogs, but have voices like goats, excepting they can't sing the very high notes. So this is a family of jotes, 5 of them in boats. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, now I like that boy heaps. His new zoo McGrew is growing by leaps. He captures them wild and he captures them meek. He captures them slim and he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week? So this is the wilds of Nantucket, and he's got a family of lunks in a bucket. I don't know what lunks are. They don't look thrilled about being captured in a bucket. I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute, I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice he could sleep in your bed if it weren't for those horns that he has on his head. That's one big horned deer. I don't know. Those horns are huge. And speaking of horns that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer. A father, a mother, 2 sisters, a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other. Whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart, can't tell where they end and can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled. He never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way round. That's an interesting horn setup they got there. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how that works. I'll capture him fat and I'll capture him scrawny. I'll capture a scragglefoot and mulligatawny, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind from the blistering sands of the desert of Zend. This beast is the beast that the brave chieftains ride when they want to go fast and find some place to hide. A mulligatawny is fine for my zoo, and so is a chieftain. I'll bring one back too. So apparently now he's putting people in his zoo. That might be considered slavery, man. I'm not sure you're supposed to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so certain. In the far western part of southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called the iota. But I'll capture one who is even much finer in the northeastern part of South Carolina. When people see him, they will say, now by thunder, this new Zoo McGrew Zoo is really a wonder. This isn't even one of the tongue twister books, and I'm messing it all up. I don't know. Most beasts are quite friendly, but still in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it, a hunter can never get bit. Ooh, this does look like a bad animal he catches with his machine. It looks like it will bite all over you. Yeah. Look at them big old teeth. Scary. A zoo should have bugs, so I'll capture a thwirl, whose legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and I'll capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. So this is a thwirl, apparently, whose legs are all messed up. And then this is a bean shooting thug bug. Chug bug. I don't know. Words are hard sometimes. I'll go to the African island of Yurka and bring back a tizzle-topped tufted mazurka, a kind of canary that with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long if he swallows an oat for breakfast the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way that it gets to his stomach the 15th of May. Well, that's a long, I think it would be hard to eat a whole meal. If it takes an oat 45 days to get down to his belly, how does he eat a bowl of oatmeal? Take like a year and a half. I'll bag a big bug who is very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising, and zooming around making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that sort of thing is for a bug is just tops. And when I've caught him, then the next thing you know, I'll go and capture a wild tic-tac-toe with X's that win and with zeros that lose. He'll look mighty good in this zoo of McGrews. So this is the bug with a propeller. Woo, he's flying. And then this is a wild tic-tac-toe, apparently. I've never heard of such things. I'll bring back a gusset, a gherk, and a gasket. and also a Gnooch from the wilds of Nantasket. And 8 Persian princes will carry the basket, but what their names are, I don't know, so don't ask it. He's very excited about this wild Grooch from the wilds of Nantasket, but he doesn't know the prince's names. I think it would be important to be able to communicate with them. I don't know. In a cave in Khartoum lives a beast called the Natch that no other hunter's been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cave with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out, but I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cookermobile. They'll fix up a dish that is just to his taste, 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut shucks, pickled and spiced, then baked at 600 degrees and then iced. It's mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts, but that's how the new Zoo McGrew Zoo gets beasts. That's none of what he said he was going to cook sounds delicious. I don't know. But apparently it's the only way to capture the Natch. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Tobsk, near the river of Nobsk, and I'll bring back an Obsk, a kind of a thing of Mabobsk, who only eats rhubarb and corn on the cobsk. Then people will flock to my new zoo in Mobsk. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful jobsk. He hunts with such vim, and he hunts with such vigor, his new McGrew Zoo gets bigger and bigger. This is an Obsk. It's intentionally made just to be impossible to say, I think. That's how he was determined. And speaking of birds, there's this Russian Paluski, whose headski is redski and belly is blueski. I'll get one of them for my Zooski McGrewski. That's a Russian bird, carried by a Russian soldier. It's called a Paluski. It's going in the Zooski. Then the whole town will gasp, why this boy never sleeps. No keeper before ever kept what he keeps. There's no telling what that young fellow will do. And then, just to show them, I'll sail to Catrue and bring back an Itcutch, a Preep, and a Prue, a Nurgle, a Nerd, and a Seersucker, too. So that's just a whole bunch of nonsense words. We're just going to show off the pictures. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hungus, and bring back a flock of wild Biponobungus. The Biponobungus from Hipponohungus are better than those down in Dipponodungus and smarter than those in Nipponodungus, and that's why I'll catch 'em in Hipponohungus. Instead of those others in Nungus and Dungus, the people will say when they see these bips bounding, this new zookeeper simply astounding. He travels so far that you'd think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? Those are a bunch of beasts with impossible to say names, for the very reason of being impossible to say, I believe. Stop? Well, I should, but I won't stop until I've captured the Phizzamadil, the world's biggest bird from the island of Gwark, who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back home to my park, the whole world will say, young McGrew's made his mark. He's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all the McGrewses. But does it mean he has the best of zoozes? I don't know. Oh. Wow, they'll all cheer. What this zoo must be worth. It's the gold darndest zoo on the face of the earth. Here's just a big old picture of all the zoo and all the attractions and all the crazy animals he's got. Yes, that's what I'd do, said young Gerald McGrew. I'd make a few changes if I ran the zoo. And that is the end of this book. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was difficult to pronounce some of those names. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, right here live on Facebook, we're going to read one of Ilyana's favorite books. It was the first book, according to her, it was the first book she ever read. Tomorrow night, we're going to read Hop on Pop. 9 o'clock, right here live on Facebook. I hope you join us then. Good night, everyone.